Muhammad says, if we are praying nafil or sunnah salat before the fard and parents call, then do we break the salat? And what is the ruling if we are praying fard salat? Well, the consensus of scholars is that when you are praying fard salat, you are not allowed to break it if your parents call, even if they become angry or mad with you. Because this is fard. You cannot break it. The scholars say in regards to voluntary prayers, we all know that anything voluntary, especially with prayers or fasting, you have the right to break it. You have the right to continue. So if you're praying voluntary prayers and your parents or one of them calls you, you have to weigh the pros and cons and look at the end conclusion of your choice. So if I know that my mom is calling me while I'm praying, and that if I finish my prayer and go to her and say, Mom, I apologize, but I was praying when you called me, and she would not be mad at me. Rather, she said, okay, no problem. In this case, I have to finish my prayer as usual. But if I know that one of my parents has a problem and that he will curse, and maybe not only me, but the prayer itself for not answering him, and he would do things that are far greater and more harmful than breaking my voluntary prayer. In this case, you must break your voluntary prayer and attend your parent. This was taken from the hadith where the Prophet told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, about Jurayj, who was a monk, and he used to worship Allah Azza wa Jal in his room, high up in a tower. Every day, Asr time, his mom comes and she chit-chats with him. Until one day she came and she called him, Ya Jurayj, Ya Jurayj, and he was praying. So he said, Oh Lord, should I continue my prayer or answer my mother? And he continued his prayer. The second day, she came and called him, and he continued his prayer, and she left. The third day, when she came and called on him, and he did not reply because he was praying, she made dua against him, that he may not die until he sees the faces of prostitutes. But he's a monk. Anyhow, make a long story short, this inevitably and eventually happened. He was dragged from his prayer room. His tower was demolished, and he was put in chains because a prostitute accused him of fornication, and that he made her pregnant, and that the child she's carrying is his. So that while they were dragging him, they passed by a brothel, and the prostitutes were outside looking, and he saw them and he smiled. Not as of courtesy, of course, but he remembered his mother's da'wah. So this means that the parents' dua is answerable. And if you were in the wrong, it will hit you. And hence, you have to evaluate whether to break your prayer, that is a voluntary prayer, or to answer, or to continue.